Hello everybody, this is Howard the Teaser King coming to you with, can you believe, week 10 of college football already? It's unbelievable. But it's a great time of year. I'm starting, there's so many games, I'm just starting to look at it Sunday night. I'm watching the pros and I'm doing my research on the colleges, updating my stats and everything. I've incorporated a lot more over-unders in my picks as well as the teams. You know, if I can't really figure out what team to play, but then I realize they're both under teams or over teams, that's the way I go. My locks are now 21 and 5. 21. I was 19 and 3. 21 and 5 now. Over the last about 5 weeks, I went 2 and 2 last week. You know, shit happens. One of those weeks it was very surprising, but the bets I made are the same bets that won the other 21 games, so it's just, that's what happens. And I have 6 locks going this week, 2 in college and 4 in pros. I don't know, it's sort of like a quarterback who throws an interception. You still got to go out and throw the next pass. You got to forget that, and basically I just move on. I look at the picks and I go, wow, here's some good picks this week. So 2 nice locks in college, 4 nice locks in the pros. Again, I ran the ad where I'm just going to leave the price of the locks at 77, a nice lucky number for everybody. The 65 was a nice price, and I appreciate the things. Normally I'm 125, so I'm just going to settle at, okay, it's not going to be a sale or a special at 65 anymore. It's just always going to be 77. You can certainly, if you want to just buy the year, I'll give you a discount on it from the 1100 on the site. But keep in mind, I go about 80% on my locks. That's why it's not a $20 lock. And I'm giving you more than one, and it's in a teaser. So you can take, like last week I had New England, and I had Oakland, my 2 winners, and I had them in multiple teasers. So you get the lock, you can put it in, you know, 5-team teasers, you put them in multiple teasers. I got 6 locks. You buy my locks, you can make a 6-team teaser there, and off you go. So that's what you're looking for. So anyway, I've got good focus on these games. I'm looking good matchups now. I know the quarterbacks. I do a little sheet here on total points so I can get the over and unders and mark the quarterbacks down what they are. This is a beautiful sheet. I just take the stats, but I'm keeping track because I'm catching teams that aren't as good as I thought, or they're scoring less than I thought, or they're scoring more than I thought. Like a team like, Old Dominion scores 32 a game. Who the hell knows that? But when I see it here, then I go, oh, okay. Or Florida Atlantic scores 20 a game. Okay. So I used it last week. I think Western Kentucky played Florida Atlantic. Yeah, and they killed them. And I could see Western Kentucky scores 40 points a game and Florida Atlantic 20. And they had them at home and they killed them. And that's exactly, you know, it's just common sense. I know Western Kentucky's got a really good quarterback. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. They score a ton. They got a good defense. They played Alabama. So now when they play a Florida Atlantic, Florida International, UTEP, they're going to kill them. They want to be first place for the league, so they don't, you know, it's not like, that's the problem in the NFL sometimes. It's a 16-game season, so they're flat a little bit. And, you know, they don't need every game. Where in college, they're all fighting for their conferences. That's why you see me play so many games in so many different conferences, because I'm looking for that matchup in each conference. So I see a Western Kentucky, Florida Atlantic, I jump on it, but then I see it in the Mountain West with San Diego State. I locked against San Jose State a few weeks ago. Was the same thing. And I'll go to the SEC or the ACC or wherever I can find that Conference USA, that matchup of the real weak team against that explosive team, and the weak team's quarterback's terrible. There's no way they're going to keep up, and in college they just keep piling it on. So that's the one key. And the one key in college also is when they get the first down, they stop the clock for, 5-10 seconds. So it makes the games a little longer, and there's a little bit more points usually. Not always, but it depends on the team. I mean, some teams want to take advantage of that. Some teams want to just run the ball and play defense, so it doesn't really matter the games more. All right, I have like 14 games I could give you, and I'd be happy to give you if you just bought my college. If you bought my whole package for $150, you're going to get 14 college games, and you're going to get about 10 pro games this week. I'm loaded. They are jumping off the page. I look at this guy and go, wow. You know, I got 6 locks without even thinking about it, just going, well, that game's a lot. Well, oh my God, they're playing that. That's the spread. There's a lock. I mean, I'm all over the place. Very live dogs. I love dogs when I lock. Just for the same reason, you know, you get a 20-point favorite and they don't cover the 20. When you lock a dog, you know, they don't have to win. Like I locked Oakland last week because Tampa Bay. There's a trend on Tampa at home. They're like, if you go against them, it was like 21-1. I think it was even longer if I went out another year. And here's Oakland, an 8-0 road dog. And that's why sometimes, like, when you buy from me, you'll see me with Oakland +1, +7. I'm putting it in like Tuesday because I know the spread's going to go. Actually, I think it ended even, or Oakland might have been a 1, or Tampa was. I think Tampa ended up as a 1 favorite, -1. But I'm trying to get it in because I want Oakland as the dog, because that's the lock, is getting Oakland +7. So I will put that in early. As long as you tell me you're going to buy, I'll email you that pick and say, hey, this is what I'm playing. A lot of my customers will tell me, you know, don't worry, I'll be there next week. And I do email them, hey, we're taking Oakland +7 here, get it in now, because I know that spread's going to change. So I do that favor for my customers. This is a good week to bet like a 10-team teaser. I hit one with a customer 2 weeks ago. And this week, I could go after a 15-team teaser without much problem, and they'd be 15 really strong games. I've already done a few 5-team teasers with some people, and again, this is the week probably to do a 5-teamer and a 10-teamer. So let me look here. So let me give you a couple of college games. Do what I do. All right, let's go. North Carolina's playing Georgia Tech. And North Carolina's favored by 10.5. And the over-under is 61 at this point. And again, that line jumps. And the closer to the game is when it jumps the most. The over-unders tend to jump real early. They'll start off at, like, 50, and then 2 days later they're at 60. And you're like, how come? It's like the stock market. I can't get in at 50. It's like they don't post it until then. That's what cracks me up. Everybody says how good Vegas is. Oh, look at, they hit the number right on the head. They never hit the number. They start off at 50. It goes to 60. They're 10 points off. I mean, it's ridiculous. And and a 50 goes to 60 and ends at 65. And you want to call them accurate? No, they're not accurate. That's what I do, is take advantage of that. Anyway. So I could take North Carolina laying 4.5 for Georgia Tech +16.5. Looking at the history, North Carolina's won the last 2 games that I can see, so I don't go back 5 years. It's hard in college because there's so many graduations. But the coach is still there for both teams. North Carolina could have a little problem with the Georgia Tech offense because it's the option and it's hard to practice and everything, but they've played them every year. Or the over-under of 61 down to 55, or under 67. North Carolina is one explosive team. Quickly read you the stat on them. North Carolina averages 32 a game and gives up 27. Georgia Tech averages 28 and gives up 23. North Carolina has played like Pitt to a 70, and they played Florida State to a 70. And that's how I view it. I go, if they can score 35 points on Florida State, who I know their defense isn't that good this year, and they could score a 36 on Pitt, who I know their defense isn't as good as it should be, especially Narduzzi coming from MSU, who's a defensive mastermind, I'd have thought they'd be giving up 5 points a game. So they're scoring a lot of points on some pretty good opposition. And here's Georgia Tech, and I'm not worried about their defense. So I look at North Carolina put up a 40 in this game. Georgia Tech's an unknown here because they run the option and they can score. I don't know what to do. I think North Carolina laying 4 is probably a W, but I think the safer bet and the better bet is go over the 55. Like I said, North Carolina is going to score 40. Georgia Tech scores on these teams. They can throw the ball, but that option's hard to defend. And if you remember the Sugar Bowl, North Carolina Baylor, I think it was a Sugar Bowl. I know they played Baylor, but Baylor's put up like 600 yards of rushing offense on them because their quarterbacks were out, and they basically just ran it down their throat. So let's assume North Carolina has trouble with running teams. I doubt they fixed that. So therefore, I think Georgia Tech, all they need here is 15 points. If North Carolina gets 40, which I'm not worried about North Carolina scoring 40 points. So 40 to 15, that's 50. That's 55. So 40 to 16. I have no doubt Georgia Tech gets in the 20s. North Carolina could score more than 40. I mean, they need the game. They beat Florida State, so they're in that. They're in the race there. So I look for North Carolina to score big. Georgia Tech gets in the 20s. I think they go way over 60. You're only laying, but again, in the teaser, you're only doing 55. So I definitely like the over in this game. North Carolina over 55. And this is the beauty of it because, you know, before I would just look at North Carolina and Georgia Tech and I'd be like, do I want Georgia Tech in 16 and North Carolina -4? Let's say North Carolina wins by 3. And you're like, shit, but they scored 70 points. And that's the beauty of looking at the over-under as well as the game. You know North Carolina is explosive. Georgia Tech with that offense should score a lot. And North Carolina's defense isn't that strong. It's not like a Virginia Tech defense or an SEC defense. I mean, it's go ahead and score on them. So that's where I'm looking at it. I think the safest is to go over 55. And that's what I like about the over-unders. It's hard, like, if this game was like 24 points, you'd be like, it's a high spread to take North Carolina. And what I'm adjusting to is, at what point is the over-under too high? At what point is the over-under like lane 30? And I think these 75, 80-point over-unders are that point. I mean, I think they're just too high to really bet. So I really try to look at these 50, 60-point over-unders. I think this is where all the money's at. I think, yeah, you know, Texas Tech plays an 80 and a 90 with Oklahoma, and that's true. And they did hit 100, but I think there's only a few teams you can really count on that 100. Texas Tech is one of them. I think Oregon's another one that just goes over all the time. But in this situation, I think that 60 to 55 is not that much, and the defenses aren't that strong. I think this is definitely an over game. So there's your first game, North Carolina over the 55. All right, let's go to. All right, let's go to the Pac-10. Washington State laying 16.5 to Arizona. Over under of 66. Arizona's got quarterback problems. So they're not really scoring a lot. Solomon's been out all year with a knee, and the second one was hurt. Even if he plays, he's injured. Their defense is terrible. Washington State needs the game, like I was saying. Now you're trying to win your conference. So Washington State cannot afford to lose. They're a much better team at home. Arizona's got a weak defense. I look for Washington State to score a lot. But now here comes the issue of the over-under. Okay, it's 66. Washington State, wow, I probably should go over. But you don't know if Arizona can score that much because their offense is just a running offense, and their quarterback, you know, if the quarterback's injured, they're down to the third-string quarterback. Washington State has a very good defense, even though they have a very good offense. They need to win it against a weak defensive team. I think the odds are better. Washington State minus the 10.5 is better than over 60 because I can't trust Arizona to score. So what am I saying? Washington State's going to score a lot. I don't think Arizona's going to score enough to get over. Wait, if they're not going to score enough to get over, then take Washington State laying the 10 to get there, because I think Washington State is very explosive, and at home especially. And Arizona is they're good in the desert. They're not good out of the desert. So you got Washington State, good home favorite, Arizona State, Arizona, a terrible road dog. A spread of 16.5, so you go under 10, under 11. See, here's what I mean. If this spread was 30, I couldn't touch it. If this spread was 7 or 8, it's a lock. At 16, I'm tempted to lock it. That's how strong I feel about it. I wrote lock down before I saw the spread, hoping that spread was about 10. And I wanted to keep it under a touchdown. It would have been a lock. At 16.5 or 17, I cut it to under 2 touchdowns, which is critical, to 11. But I really like Washington State here to put a big number up on a weak Arizona defense without much of an offense. And I just think Washington State's a very strong team at home, has to win because they only have the one loss. I don't think they've lost in conference. I know they lost to Boise, and they lost to like the Division II team, but in conference I don't think they have a loss. They have some good wins. They beat UCLA, and Oregon and Oregon State last week. So take Washington State minus 10.5 or 11. Play them with the over in the North Carolina game. I think that's two very good plays there. I like sticking with the home teams. The one fault I see a lot of losses are the road favorites. There's very few teams that can be a road favorite and get away with it, even in college football. Well, in pro football, it's New England, and then I've lost with Pitt as a road favorite to Miami and Minnesota as a road favorite to the Bears. So that's how tough it is in the pros. You got to have a Tom Brady to do it. In college, I mean, the teams can win on the road, but the question is the covering. Like if this was on the road and Washington State was laying 17, I'd never play it. At home, I feel that they're gonna kill them, and I think it'll be probably a 24 to 30 point. Washington State scores in the 40s. Arizona 10, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't think they score that much, so I think it's safe to go minus 10. Over 60, Washington State could put up a 44 and win 44 to 10. You didn't get over 60, and they win 44 to 10. That happened earlier. They played Idaho, and they were laying like 28. And my play was Washington State because I was afraid Idaho wouldn't score. And Washington State has a good defense, and they're not as a offensive team as like a Cal who has no defense. So you've got to be careful. And I got an email from a guy who says, I lost my teaser because I had Idaho under, and I said, well, why didn't you ask me? That's where I came up with the advisor on my page is, why didn't you ask me? I would have told you. And I had Washington State big, and I said I would have put you on Washington State, not the over. You can over Washington State and Cal, or Cal Oregon, then you can over that, right? But because both teams can score, neither team has a defense. But when you play in Idaho, they don't really have an offense to score. So Washington State's going to score, but Idaho can't. So don't mess around with the over-under in that type of game. You go right to the team and you lay the points. When you have a very good offense, a Western Kentucky playing Washington State, or a Middle Tennessee State, or Oregon, or one of these explosive teams, then you go over because they're going to have a hard time stopping them. Anyway, there's your complimentary picks. North Carolina over 55, the Washington State minus 10.5 or 11. Good luck to you again. If you want nothing more than either sign up for my picks. Again, if you sign up for the college, you get the college locks. If you sign up for everything, you get all the locks. This is the week to do it. I'm very strong in college and in the pros. I mean, I'm coming up with these games, and I got a list of, I basically have a list of 14 games I can play that I think I've already posted them. And in pros, I think I have 11 or 10. And it's just a huge week. It's just like, okay, some weeks you don't have a mat. Last week's pros were terrible. It was a very difficult time coming up with more than 5 or 6 games. I did very well at it. I think I went 7-3 in my pros. Losing one line, I won 2 locks. Oakland, New England, lost Minnesota, which the whole world lost. But basically, I was very good Sunday on my pros. So even a bad week, I go 7-3. But this week looks huge. Like I said, 2 locks in college, 4 locks in the pros, and there's a couple more games that I still might lock. I mean, there's no time limit on it. I'll lock it. I post a lot of things are posted today. I'll still post things probably tomorrow. I do look at the lines, so if the lines are moving, if I like a team and I'm thinking of locking it and I see that line move with me, I might lock it at that point because I'm okay. There's no danger out there. Like if I love a team and they're -10 and all of a sudden they go to -7, I go, wait a minute, what's wrong? Somebody get hurt, so that happens. And when that happens is I might not lock it. I might go, well, I don't know what's going on here. But if it goes from 7 to 10 and I love the 7 and now it's up to 10 and I go, okay, everything's good, nobody got hurt, maybe somebody got hurt on the other team, that'll convince me even more to lock the game. I think I did that a couple weeks ago with USC. I locked them against, I think it was Arizona, and the quarterback was out, and that line jumped from, I don't know what, 10 to 13, and I jumped on it and locked it, and they won like 48-10 or something. So I try to watch the line. I advise you to also, and definitely shop around. All right, everybody, www.teaserking.com. Again, the locks are going to be 77 the rest of the year. It would have been 75, but I'm very superstitious with my 7, so 77 is a very lucky number, and so I went to that. But again, if you have any questions, comments, email me. 5-team teasers this week, 10-team teasers. This is the week to do it. If you have questions on games that you're thinking of, again, 1 or 2 games is fine, but if you have like question on 8 or 9 games, then just buy the advisor package and say, okay, let me see what you got here, or buy the locks. If you buy the locks, I'd be happy to share some of the other strong games that I played. As long as you're a customer, then I'm more open to, I didn't lock this game, but I really love it, and more things like that. So again, that's probably the best thing to do with me. All right, everybody, have a great week. Good luck, and let's get some money. All right, www.teaserking.com.